What happens when a legendary franchise forgets exactly who it is? Lords of Shadow 2 traded its tight action horror heritage for a shallow cocktail of every gaming cliché from the 2000s and 10s. Today we are diving deep into the creative overreach that stripped the soul from Dracula's final stand and left fans empty-handed. Grab a drink, preferably not blood, and let us talk about the tragedy of Gabriel Belmont. To understand why the sequel stumbled, we have to look at why the first Lords of Shadow soared. Back in 2010, Mercury Steam did the impossible. They reimagined Castlevania as a focused, linear, cinematic epic. It was not trying to be an open-world RPG or a stealth simulator. It was a moody, atmospheric descent into dark fantasy that respected its combat roots. It gave us a singular pillar, the tragic fall of a holy warrior. Every level felt intentional, a curated gallery of Gothic architecture and boss fights that felt like myths come to life. By the time that post-credit stinger hit, the stakes were astronomical. We were not just waiting for a sequel, we were waiting for the definitive Dracula simulator. The identity was set, the tragedy was primed. All the sequel had to do was refine that vision. Instead, it decided to replace it. Then came 2014. The game opens with a god-tier prologue, Dracula on his throne, an army at his gates, total power. And then, we wake up in a drab industrial sci-fi city. The shift from medieval majesty to generic warehouse number 4 was jarring, to say the least. But the real identity crisis was not just visual, it was mechanical. Someone at the studio decided that playing as the Prince of Darkness, a being who can rip out demon hearts, should involve turning into a rat to hide from guards. The forced stealth segments fundamentally clashed with the power fantasy. By trying to mimic every popular 2014 gaming trend, stealth, modern settings, gadget-based puzzles, the game felt like a collection of chores. When you are the world's most powerful vampire, you should not be playing Metal Gear Solid with less responsive controls. In an attempt to feel modern, the developers ditched the tight level design of the first game for a non-linear city layout. On paper, it sounds like a return to the series' Metroidvania roots. In practice, it was an illusion of depth built on geographical confusion. The present-day city was a maze of gray pipes and shipping containers. Exploration did not feel like a rewarding discovery, it felt like aimless backtracking through soulless environments. The fragmented world design shattered the immersion and completely diluted the narrative urgency established in the prologue. In the first game, every step forward felt like progress toward a dark destiny. In the sequel, every step felt like you were just trying to remember which elevator led back to the plot. The biggest tragedy, though, was the story. The original Lords of Shadow was an intimate character study of a man losing everything to save what he loved. It was Shakespearean. The sequel buried that emotional weight under a convoluted mess of corporate demons, satellite arrays, and acolytes of chaos. We went from fighting the personification of death to fighting boardroom executives in suits. The sprawling cast lacked development. Even characters like Victor Belmont, who should have been legendary, were introduced and discarded in minutes. The unique Gothic horror soul of Castlevania was swapped for generic end-of-the-world tropes. Gabriel Belmont deserved a finale that felt like a requiem. Instead, he got a Saturday morning cartoon plot. So, what did we learn? Lords of Shadow 2 is a textbook example of how the drive to be a jack of all trades can leave you a master of none. Because the game tried to do everything, open world, stealth, modern sci-fi, Gothic flashback, it failed to do any of them with the polish the franchise deserved. This creative overreach resulted in the series being put on ice for over a decade. It is a trend we still see today, bloated feature sets overriding a singular, polished vision. But look at recent successes, games like Metroid Dread or the Resident Evil remakes. They prove that staying true to a core identity is the only way to sustain a legacy. Dracula is a king. He should not have been a rat. And hopefully, if we ever see the Belmonts again, the developers will remember that sometimes less really is more. But hey, maybe I am being too harsh on the rat form. What do you think? Did the modern setting ruin the vibe for you, or did you enjoy the change of pace? Let me know in the comments. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. It helps the channel more than a holy water flask. I will see you in the next one.